This is Levi Meyer representing Compass Miami and South Florida, and you're listening to the Real Talk podcast.
Hey, this is Lane Johnson representing Compass and Aspen, and you are listening to the Real Talk podcast.
Hello, this is Steve, and we're with Wilder Brothers of Compass in the DC metro area, and you're listening to the Real Talk podcast.
This is Naomi Klein representing the Compass office in Beverly Hills, and you're listening to the Real Talk podcast.
What up, everybody? This is Chef Jack Harris of the Talk Team podcast.
This is Jade with the Jessica Northrup team from Denver, Colorado, and you are listening to the Real Talk podcast.
Yo. All right, fellas, welcome to another episode of Real Talk. This week's been a little crazy. I was in Aspen and Vail, Colorado for the last, over the New Year's break, and while it was really fun, it was definitely tiring. I'm still recovering from it, but I do have to say, we're just going to go right into it. We're kicking off 2020 in the best way possible on the Real Talk platform. Last week, like I said before, I had the opportunity to get my good friend Lane Johnson from Aspen, Colorado, and today we have our South Beach Miami extraordinaire Levi Meyer joining me on what will be an awesome episode of Real Talk. And like I said before, behind every business individual, there is a subconscious library of influences that shapes who we are. It's easy to forget that our ideas are actually the manifestations of our life experiences. Our business work ethic and style is an outward expression of our past and current habits. Whether you're running a real estate business engrossed in the fabric and culture of Aspen, Colorado and its people, hiking up the Highland Bowl, hanging out at the Nell, taking clients out on Cloud 9, and skiing or fishing in the backcountry while navigating the 1,000 acres of White River National Forest, like your backyard, or you're a surfer broker that frequents Montauk and sips cocktails with clients at Gurneys. Real estate and any business in general is a summary of exactly that. And speaking of subconscious library of influences that shapes who you are as a business person, Levi is part of the cultural fabric of just that, but in Miami, Florida. While he's a super broker in his own way, listing trophy properties like the Porsche Design Tower 2901, and closing waterfront lots and beachside homes off South Beach. He can be seen hanging out at 1-800-LUCKY at the Wynwood and taking his family out on the boat through the ocean channels of Miami. Levi and I met in Aspen in the summer of 2014 when we opened up our first Compass office in Colorado, going back to Aspen again. He's not a winter guy whatsoever, so I'm happy to have met him in the city where the primary activities are known for winter sports. He's a Miami native that understands and appreciates the diverse and ever-changing landscape of South Florida. Through his dynamic real estate career, Levi has received numerous of accolades, including annual top producer and most innovative marketing, as well as media recognition for several record-breaking sales. He's one of 10 siblings. He has 4 sisters and 5 brothers. Grew up in his younger years in Virginia, and prior to real estate, had a stint in defense contracting, working alongside the DoD, Department of Defense, sourcing $50 million worth of quote-unquote goods to the U.S. DoD in Iraq and Afghanistan. Levi's a father of 2 and a wife to Lauren. You may follow his personal Instagram at Levi Meyer, LeviMeyerre, and his business Instagram at the Meyer Group RE, the MEYERGROUP-RE. So Levi, welcome.
Welcome. It sounds like the beginnings of like a Two Truths and a Lie episode. like, which of those things were really true? Like, am I wife to Lauren, or was I an arms dealer? Did I grow up in Virginia, and do I own a boat?
Or all of the above.
Or as Lane calls it, a hole.
I've come to learn that a lot of these guests that we've had, their resumes are so extraordinarily long. They have done so much in such short time span that it's impossible to list them all.
Well, I think that's because very few people grow up wanting to be a realtor. Like no little child, almost no child dreamt of growing up to be a realtor. So you go off to do all these other things and you realize you don't like them. And then at some point you come across real estate and it's either for you or it's not. And for me, it was a home run.
Yeah, there you go. But
Yeah,
you know,
it took me a while to get here, though.
Danielle, growing up, she was visiting. That was one of her inspirations growing up. She liked.
I just liked real estate as a concept. I didn't know I wanted to be a realtor.
She liked.
I always like that. I used to do like the Gary Vaynerchuk as like the realtor. You know, he like swings his arm like it's like.
Yeah.
You know what it's like being a realtor.
But it's funny. One of the reasons I chose to be a realtor was because it was a wholesome job, like an honest business.
Good, honest, wholesome guy.
Yeah, there was like, it was like there was so many other places. Not that I was just terrible industries that are much more complex. And real estate was just like you're selling houses to people. It's great. So, you can sleep at night.
Exactly.
So, well, first of all, welcome to New York. I'm happy you're here. We just saw each other November.
November 12th or 13th.
So it's been a little over a week. Oh, hey, come on in.
We'll give a guest star.
Come on in. We're
Mr.
live
Rogers.
right now.
It's like Mr. Rogers. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, we're live right
I
now.
have a
Please,
sweater and
please.
everything. Can I get
A little hug.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you.
What's up? What's
Welcome.
up, guys?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Coming out later. We are live. This is a hot mic right here.
Awesome.
You're in the middle of a podcast.
Right now, you're.
It's a pleasure. The pleasure's all mine.
For those that are not aware, we have Frank Soriano in the room. Frank is a good friend of mine. He is obviously a New York City broker. And he actually, him and I just came back from a trip in Colorado.
You guys don't mind if I join for a little bit, do you?
Please.
A little bit, but you can't
Of
talk.
course.
Okay. Deal.
Frank, how was Aspen?
That was fantastic.
What did you think about Vail and Aspen in general?
Oh my God.
It was awesome.
That was one of the best videos that came out of
The
that
skiing?
Aspen
Him
trip.
skiing?
Was his first skiing his first moment. He's like, he was what do they call it? Pizza French fries,
Yeah.
French
Yeah.
fries. And he was like all French fries. I'm skiing. It's my first time. And it's like whoa, pizza, and then face plant.
And then the next slide was actually
laughed so
him
hard.
on the ground with the ski poles all over the place and the ski.
No, I have a
lines in
really
the
I have a
air.
really good friend who was snowboarding down a mountain. So he's like Instagram. He's like he's on his Instagram stories and he's skiing. He's like, oh my God, look! And he's going down the mountain. It's like, wow, that's really steep. Like he shouldn't be Instagramming. Next video he's on his way to the emergency room. And then video after that, X-ray of his snapped bone.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Luckily, none of that happened to me.
Luckily, no.
This guy kind of was babysitting me day one
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Oh
for a little bit.
I had to make sure. I had to make sure
Anyways,
you were good.
yes, welcome, Frank.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, I wouldn't have honestly gone if it wouldn't have been for Mr. Yamaguchi over here. So he encouraged me to go, and
Now you've skied.
I took him up on the offer, and we had a great time.
Great time.
Great
We
time.
had a great time hanging out with Lane Johnson.
Seeing fellow Compass
Lane
friends
Johnson.
out there.
Speaking of Lane, it's like that's a hard act to follow on your podcast. I mean, it's like he's still 2019 interview, right? It was pre New Year's.
He was New Year's Eve.
So I'm kicking off the Real Talk
You are the
podcast
first
2020.
podcast to be recorded in 2020.
Numero uno.
Numero
Thank
uno.
you. So yeah, I'm not. It's a tough act to follow, Lane, but the clock is reset. It's a new slate.
Yeah. Well, actually, you and Frank both are
We can
now
show 'em up.
first recording of 2020.
Frank, get out of this office, man.
Frank's
I'm stealing your
willing to take
thunder.
his time. So let's get. I'm going to give you some softball questions, lady. Why did you get into real estate? Well, who got you into it? You were dealing arms. You were an arms dealer beforehand. You were working at Green Line Vans before that, or something.
So we can go through a long. I can try to summarize the sort of the roadmap that got me into real estate. But the long story short is that I went to a yeshiva growing up.
Yeah.
I was sort of railroaded and being prepped to be a rabbi. And it dawned on me at a relatively early age in my mid-teens that the rabbinate wasn't for me, and so when I realized that in this particular yeshiva or high school it was rabbinate or bust, I busted, and I went off and I got a job doing sales for a guy named Stuart Holtzkenner, who is now actually in an interesting twist of fate. He's actually now a rabbi, but back then he was a former Wall Street guy who was an entrepreneur, and he had these startup businesses, one of which was a uniform manufacturing company. So he put me behind a desk, gave me a tape recorder, that you attach to the phone, gave me a few books on how to speak with people, how to sell, how to do phone sales, and so on. And he taught me everything that you need to know about picking up a phone and dialing for dollars.
Cool.
That sort of led me through various different various different industries. I managed call centers at some point for a Visa subsidiary selling credit cards. Later, that transitioned into a career in call centers for moving companies. And somewhere in the middle, a friend of mine called me and asked me to come work with him on in a defense contracting company, which is a more formal way. Defense contracting is a more formal way of saying arms dealing, but it is more formal because you're selling arms to the Department of Defense in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, we're not hustling arms to Nepal. You know, we were bidding on contracts and shipping plane loads and boatloads of ammunition into Qasr port in Iraq or Kabul Air Force Base.
That's really cool. I didn't actually know that was truly.
But you were selling them to U.S. forces, right? Not to or defense contracting companies.
With the United States Department of Defense, we were bidding on U.S. DoD contracts. This was not like we weren't selling them in the streets. We did have a business where we would import hunting ammunition, and I was in charge of the domestic retail ammo distribution. So I would call all the local ammo distribution companies in the U.S. and sell them pallets of hunting ammo, and
wow.
You know, it was a different life.
Awesome.
But that didn't end very well. It was a complicated mess. There was federal investigations involved, and some people went to jail. For the most part,
Makes for good stories. Right?
Makes for great stories.
Yeah.
And real estate. How I actually got into real estate was because the attorney that I was working for at that point. I'd asked him. I said, "Look, I didn't get indicted. None of this was me. I didn't go down for any of this. And the reality is, can I go back into doing the DoD contracts? Can I get back into whether it's arms and ammunition or just general defense contracting? I have people that are asking me if I know the business and they're willing to back me financially." So, you know, he says, "Look, you just paid me a pretty hefty sum to make sure that the world understood that you're just a nice guy, got mixed up in the wrong business, and so on and so forth. But, you know, why don't you go do something a little more wholesome?" And I said, what am I going to do? I said, I got my high school dropout at this point. So, you know, like, there's not much that I can go do. And he says, well, you know, you're a nice Jewish boy, man. Go sell real estate. You'll be great at it. Like, okay, great, fine.
The most stereotypical answer ever.
Yeah,
the right answer.
But you know, timing is everything. That was 2008, and people were running for the hills. So I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I was like, so I went to manage more call centers for a little while, and then real estate was later reintroduced as an idea when I was engaged to be married, and I was working in the moving business, which surprisingly is a dirtier business than arms and ammunition distribution.
I bet, yeah.
I wanted something that was a little different, and real estate was something that I'd always liked. I always had an interest in. My uncle is a real estate appraiser. My grandfather was a real estate appraiser. My great uncle was a real estate developer, and his father before that. And so the real estate is in my blood, and so I kind of took the plunge and decided to just throttle forward. And we almost
you have 9 siblings.
7 years later.
None of them wanted to go into real estate though.
No, but I call it the Myer Group and not the Levi Meyer Group. So it's Easter egg. I'm leaving that open in case any of them want to join me.
Sure, I like it. Tell me about your first deal. How did you come across it?
So a lot of my first deals. My first year was really scrappy. There wasn't the brokerage I joined didn't have much of a training program, and so. I had to just pick up a few pieces and run with it. And so what I would do is I would take listings that were on the internet for rentals and I'd post them on Craigslist. And I would just take them, I'd post them for sale. And at the time you were allowed to. Then later you had to get agents' permission to repost them. But at that time you were allowed to do it. So I was posting them. Then I got to a point where I was getting too many phone calls and I was running around showing rentals. So I went on one of these websites like I forget what one of these websites we post jobs.
Zillow's?
What do you post? You post jobs and people bid for them. It's a lot of like Philippines and India and Pakistan, and so I hired some like virtual assistants to sit and post the listings for me every day. So I was like, here's a spreadsheet, and that's it. And I hired these guys, and I had VAs, and they would post and do certain things and kind of pre-qualify for me at a certain point, and then I just run around and do these showings. So my first year I did close to 24 rentals, and I was just running around like a rental machine. I was actually rookie of the year at my previous brokerage for just rentals.
The manager was like, "Oh my God, we've never had anybody do so many rentals before."
Yeah, and then, but all the while I knew that like I wanted to do sales, and so I was kayaking with my former broker. His name is Manny Chamizo, and he's now still a really good buddy of mine. But he lived on the Gables Waterway, and he set me up. He said, "Hey, where do you want to sell? What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to sell expensive luxury real estate." So he said, "Well, focus on the water. So he had a house on the water, and we would kayak up and down and study the fact. What you learn about waterfront real estate is that when you drive by a waterfront house on the street, you actually don't get to see much of the house. Lots of hedges and privacy fences.
It looks totally different.
But you get in a kayak or a paddleboard or jet ski or a boat, and suddenly now you really see you get to really get a feel for each house.
You're so right. When you toured me around in that paddle boat, I was like, wow, these houses are way nicer in the back.
You can drive up a street and not know which side of the road is waterfront, but when you're in the water, you see a whole different world. And so
it's also in South Florida. I mean, I grew up in South Florida myself, and it's a lot of times, which I'm sure you can attest to, a lot of times these properties, they're kind of shaped like pizza slices in the sense that, the part of the property that you see from the street is a very narrow piece of the property.
It's the corner of the triangle, exactly. But then you get out to the water, and it's the wide part. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so a part of the history between high school and real estate that I skipped over accidentally was when I went to Israel on a trip and decided to join the Israeli army. And I was I did a stint in the Israeli army, which worked out about as well as high school and college for me. Go figure. It's not something I just wasn't made for that kind of regimented schedule. And but I used a little bit of what I had learned in the Israeli army, and I was like, hey, it's reconnaissance time. So I would make dossiers. I had spreadsheets. I was so laser focused on this section of the Gables Waterway. I would kayak it regularly. Any friend that was willing to get in a kayak with me and go, it was just like, hey, let's go kayaking. And I'm using Google Maps to drop pins on houses and make notes to say, hey, that one's got a blue tarp. This guy's grass is overgrown. They haven't taken their shutters down. The hurricane was 3 months ago. And like little like clues that you could find to say, hey, like these people may not be maximizing. They may not be maximizing their waterfront living, and maybe it's time for them to sell. Right. So I really, while I was doing all the rentals, I focused a lot on the Gables Waterway until the first one dropped, and it was my first deal was a waterfront deal.
And so how'd you get that first one?
I did a lot of. It was very grassroots. I was knocking on doors. I was sending letters. I was telling people I have cash buyers, which I did. I mean, I didn't have necessarily buyers that were active family looking for buyers, but I had investors that were like, go get me a deal in the water, we'll rehab it and sell it. So, if they were willing to sell at a price that made sense, I got a cash buyer for you. Mm-hmm. So we would send these letters and knock on doors and just hit it until we finally got one. And then another one that I was working on came through, and it was a tough time. Even though I was doing all these rentals, money was tight. Rentals don't pay a lot of money. And I remember that was, I was down to, before my son Benjamin was born, I was down to $175 in my bank account. And then he was born, and literally this deal just happened, and the commission I made off of it because of a referral and a split or whatever was $17,500, which was quite a sign. It went from $175 to $17,500.
Yeah.
And then the next one came through, and I made $45,000 or $50,000. I'm like, wow, that's money. I mean, I did almost 24 rentals, and I made like $18,000. Yeah. And I'm like, well, wow. Now I made 60, 70, and since then I've done a ton of homes on the Gables Waterway. I wouldn't necessarily say I've sold the most, but probably the most in Compass on the Gables Waterway.
Mm-hmm. And, congrats.
And I'm laser focused on it these days. Now I have a boat which I bought from the seller of one of those houses, and now I'm keeping the boat at a new house that we have listed.
Which was conveniently broken during the retreat.
Yes, of course. The boat is always broken when you have too many friends in town. It's always being serviced.
It's okay. It's all good.
But now I'm actually keeping the boat at a buddy's house who bought, I sold a house for 1.7, then 2 houses later, we bought one for 1.25. And he's fixing it up. We're actually using some Compass Concierge money to do that. And in the interim, my boat's behind there. So I'm very focused on the Gables Waterway. Jonathan Rosen referred a client to me who happened to, by chance, Jonathan's the man. Yeah. Love him.
He's been referring some pretty big clients.
Oh, he did. You probably hear about that on my predecessor's podcast. No?
He's a man of the people, the Compass people.
He is a man of the people.
But he didn't refer to me because he knew he was looking on the Gables Waterway. It was just because, hey, he's Miami, Miami, Levy.
He just happened to be.
So he referred him to me, and it turns out he's looking for a house on the Gables Waterway. That is my jam. Nobody knows that better than me. And I was able to actually utilize, now I've graduated from kayaks to be able to take clients on my boat and go up and down and show them the side of the water that you're not going to see unless you have a boat.
Yeah, it's great.
So,
Great.
so I don't know. The question was how to get into real estate, and all that came out of it.
No, that's good. It was good. It's kind of like it's like any training, or any business training 101. It's how do you get started in your own business? Well, no one's gonna hand you anything.
No.
You have to kind of do the grunt work first. You have to get your hands a little dirty. You have to know and understand the business marketplace.
Yeah. So to the new agents or agents that are still working their way up through those first years and really trying to go into second gear, my advice is always number one, don't focus on the money as much as the experience. That's and it's hard to say because everybody we gotta.
You got bills to pay.
You got bills to pay.
We get it.
But this is not a business. There's the common misconception of real estate, which I think is a question you commonly ask is this is a business we call it survive for 5. It's going to take you 5 years to build, unless you're super well connected and you're coming in with your buddies and friends and family.
Yep.
But like for most of us, you're gonna have to earn your keep. You know how many people like show up on Facebook and say, "Hey, I got my license. Anybody looking to buy, sell, or rent?" Like we see that every day. Nobody trusts you. Why should I trust you? Why should I trust you with the most important purchase or sale of my life?
You
Because
were kind of a weirdo in high school. I don't know if I would trust you.
no, and it's even among your friends and your colleagues and the people in your synagogue or church or your kid's school. Just because you got your license yesterday doesn't mean everybody's going to come list their house with you. You have to prove that you know what you're doing, and that comes in experience and in research.
Sure.
And so for me, I drilled down onto the Gables Waterway. I knew every home, who bought it, who sold it, how much they paid, is it updated, does it have impact windows, is there a blue tarp on their roof, and I would constantly study it. My screensaver for almost a year was an aerial view of the Gables Waterway. I just focused on it until I'm the expert there. And when you finally get that interview, you finally get that appointment with that seller, or you run into somebody, it's a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, but when you get that moment, you're ready for it. And when they realize that you can talk price per foot, and you can talk bridge heights, and you can talk elevation certificates and flood zones, and you understand that this side of the water is one school zone, and actually that one that you're looking at across the way, even though it's the same city, same zip code, same neighborhood, that's a different school zone, and that makes a difference. And this one's 14 feet elevation, and we'll be sitting out here the day after a storm sipping coffee, looking across the canal to somebody who's 5 foot elevation has water up to their living room. So those
It also helps you could pull up with your boat to the dock.
Well, that was one of the main reasons.
Is that something that a lot of people have done and like incorporated into their businesses down in Miami?
Is what?
Is like boat travel versus like driving around like.
I mean,
cars?
it's a little more show than it is practical, but it is nice to be able to tell homeowners that live on the water that you understand that you're a boater. Mm-hmm. You understand what you understand the intricacies. You understand their needs. It's a different life living on the water.
I think it's super valuable
Can
to
you
be
take
able to drive.
buyers
Yeah.
On a boat.
Yeah. So I mean, I've done buyer boat tours, but usually it's not. We're not doing home tours. Like if I have 5 showings scheduled, we're not pulling up to each one by boat. It's just it's easier to go. It's easier to go.
By car.
But the old traditional method by car.
Yeah.
Horse and buggy.
But it is nice to be able to say, hey, let me, these are the 2-3 neighborhoods that you want to live in the water. Let's do a little ride up the canal one day, and you start at 2:00. You go up a few canals. By the time you're done, you're cruising home into the sunset. You have a drink or two. They get a feel for these neighborhoods, and now they really have a better understanding. And truth be told, again, elevations, bridge heights, seawalls. These are real concerns for people that are living on the water. And if you don't know that, you don't know that. So that when having the boat, for me, was a step into, I really want to. I want to be able to identify with these people, and I want them to be able to identify with me. But this boat's a learner. It's a learning curve. Mm-hmm. This is a starter boat, guys.
Do brokers actually put the same way they do signs out front, street side? Do they put them out behind houses?
Yeah. So waterfront homes, you need 2 signs, one on the street, one on the water.
That's great. Yeah.
Now, one of the areas that I focus on specifically, and Miami Beach is different, right? But Coral Gables, the city of Coral Gables, has a ridiculous restriction on real estate signs. It's a 40 square inch sign. So that basically means 4 by 10. It's essentially a glorified business card.
Oh, it's small.
And that's it. So
no
so you
typing.
can't really see anything from it. But if you see a stick in the grass and a business card hanging from it, you know that house is for sale. And maybe you pull up a little closer just to get
So
the
you can't
to read
use the future of real estate compass sign.
No, you can't use the
Yeah.
future real estate compass sign. That's completely
We're gonna have to
forbidden.
do some modifications on that.
But what
sign,
I do, there's tricks. So you're allowed to put a sign hanger. So I'll put on the water side, I'll put my sign, and then the hanger just says my phone number, big letters, as big as they can get. And on the front side, I'll have a sign and a hanger that says waterfront, because somebody driving up Riviera or Granada or Adunia may not know that that's a waterfront home, because you can't tell when you're driving up the street. So, but yes, real estate agents do have to focus and think about the water side of things.
So the boat is kind of like your business. Getting into the entrepreneur side of things, most people want to grow, right? They want to grow their business. You have a boat that gives you an edge against some of the other real estate brokers out there. How else right now are you growing your business? And what is your business?
Frank's trying to sneak.
Is Frank
He's trying to
leaving?
sneak out of here without saying goodbye.
You're
I gotta say goodbye.
Right.
Listen, it was a pleasure seeing you, buddy.
We're doing a happy hour. Come.
Absolutely, would love to. I'm gonna grab dinner. I have a client dinner at 6 p.m. and then I'm
Perfect.
down and hang out with you guys. Okay?
All right.
Take care. It was a
All right,
pleasure.
I'll see you
Thank you
later.
guys.
See ya.
Awesome.
So, just like any entrepreneur, what they want to do is they want to grow their business. What are you doing outside? Obviously, you have a boat, but what else are you doing to grow your business? Well, what gives you the edge?
So, like in any business, you have to kind of look at where the business can come from various different places. Some people focus on a farm and they just hit that neighborhood, letters, mailers, door knocking, sponsoring events, being whatever you could do to just be present in a particular neighborhood, so that you can be the go-to in that neighborhood.
Yep.
Admittedly, I haven't done that very well outside of the Gables waterway.
Okay.
Where I tend to thrive is just in networking. I'm great with people, so for me, I leverage that to meet more people, be at more places. I mean, even the fact that I'm here in New York was a conscious effort to say, hey, there's a lot of people moving from New York City to Miami because of the SALT taxes, which are the income taxes in the state of New York, and the limitations on their tax deductions.
$750,000 in deductions, $10,000 in real estate.
So but lately, even though people aren't advertising or talking about it, I'm seeing it. I'm working with 5 different buyers that are moving to Miami or moving to Florida. From New York, more or less for the purpose of saving on taxes.
Sure. Totally.
So for me, I said, you know what, I go to all the retreats. So growing your business, for me, I'm trying to really double down on my network, my agent referrals, people in my synagogue, people in my kids' school, people that I see at the park, because I'm just better in person.
Yeah, you definitely are. And you're a mover and you're a shaker. I completely see that. And that's definitely your game. See, probably you were one of the most social guys at Compass anyway. So, there's no denying that by any means.
Gordon actually said today that I'm arguably the most well-networked agent at Compass.
Everyone knows you.
For sure.
Well, Joe Bells is fighting hard for that title, but
nope, he ain't coming even close.
No.
I hope he does one day. I hope he does, but that's fine.
We have an inside running joke. I'm just throwing him a little what's up.
Talk to me right now. We're running out of time quickly.
We are running out of time
because
quickly.
There's so much good nuggets coming from me right now, and it's hard to catch.
Well, no.
Well,
We're titling this
part one
of
series maybe 4.
Levi Meyer does the Real Talk podcast. Well, to be determined.
Maine has a part 2 coming too. So
okay, this part 1. We're definitely gonna do it 2. I'd say let's make it a 4-part series.
Whatever you want, man. 4-part, 5-part. This podcast is going to go on for a long time.
So tell me, what is it that you wanted to? What can we talk about? I want to add some value to agents instead of just rambling about myself.
And it's not just agents; it's other businesses, right?
It's other people.
So this is a business podcast. So there are a lot of competition in New York City. I just came back from Aspen. There's Element. It's a huge powerhouse there.
Aspen is a very competitive market.
Very competitive.
Those are big dollars.
Miami,
big competition.
Extremely competitive. I mean, you have the Elements and Corcoran's down there too. You have the Sotheby's down there, but you also have the local boutique, quote unquote, high-end agencies.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your. Let's just say you're competing for
differentiation.
A listing. You're competing for a listing, and the seller is choosing between you, another high-end brokerage or luxury brokerage and maybe a discount agency. And they say, well, what can you do for me? This company will do for 3% less, 2% less. Or this company will do it for a 3-month term rather than a 6-month exclusive or 2-month exclusive, whatever. How do you differentiate yourself from the discount market and the flexibility market?
So from the discount market, that's probably the easiest. That's probably the easiest rebuttal or thing that you can refute.
Okay. Tell me about it.
First of all, we all know that cheap doesn't mean quality.
Nope.
And so the guy or gal that's willing to cut their commission just to earn the business, maybe they're hungry, and maybe that the seller might think that translates to they're hungry and fight. But in reality, you want to get the best bang for your buck. But if we're talking about cutting a point from your commission, it's 1% of the purchase price, and I don't think there's a seller that's really out there that wouldn't take 99% of their list price, right? So if you can't get a deal done because of a 1% split, I don't even really believe that is a serious enough seller. That it comes to a point where you have to say you get what you pay for, and the agent that's out there doing it for a 4%. And now they're giving 2 and 2 to another agent. So again, demotivating agents by cutting the buyer's agent's commission to 2% doesn't do anybody any favors. And at the same token, there's agents that are taking 4% and giving 3 to the buyer, keeping 1 for themselves, and just figuring to do volume business. Huh. And while yes, you're doing volume business, how motivated is the agent that's only getting 1 point?
You're not going to last in this business.
Yeah.
So I just think no. There is you have to demand a certain. You have to decide what it is that your worth, your value is, and you have to stick to your guns on that. Somebody, I think, but what it comes to for me, you can't work with everybody. There's too much real estate. There's too much real estate. I can't sell all the real estate in Miami, let alone it's just there's just too much. Yeah. So and while we're all just fighting for a piece of it, for me, I just think that there's going to be people that are going to vibe really well with me, and I know I'm a special star.
You're a special little cookie,
right? I'm not for everybody, but what I try to do is I try to just do differentiation. So right. Even within Compass, I say, listen, first of all, what Compass offers versus this other luxury broker or this boutique broker, that discount broker, we offer coming soons, we have concierge, we have the bridge loan program, we have at least in Miami, a 10% agent to staff to agent ratio. We have support. We have the technology that makes all of our marketing easier so that I can create a quick flyer or a quick newsletter in minutes, seconds in some cases, and then get to the busy work, which is actually, the part that's actually going to help sell your home, which is calling agents, asking for their feedback, following up on showings, dragging people to brokers' opens, making sure that your property has exposure beyond me blasting it out in emails and sending mailers in your community. So, I think what I do is I show them that Compass has all this, and that's the brokerage differential. But what makes me different? That's going to be a different answer for everybody, and I think we all need to kind of reach in, dig deep, and figure out who we are and what it is that separates you. What is your differentiator? And for me, I'm scrappy. We talked about me being one of 10 kids. There was,
you gotta be scrappy.
I had to build alliances with my sisters, and I scratch your back, you scratch mine, just to get dinner some nights. I was like, hey, I'm working. I'm going to be home late. Save me some dinner. What are you gonna do for me? And we'd cut a deal, and she put a plate in the microwave for me, and she'd hide it in the back of the fridge. It was just to get dinner was hard in my.
That's negotiation throughout your life.
So just from being one of 10, I'm scrappy, and then I've been in the Israeli army. I've managed call centers selling credit cards on the phone. What that is. You can sell somebody on the points and the mileage system or whatever it is that they low APRs and everything's gravy until you say, great. So your social security number, and then it's click.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, flatline. So that's a hard. So I've put in the time to be very scrappy, and for me, what I tell people is, I have an assistant. I have Compass behind me that makes my marketing beautiful, easy, and efficient. I'm going to offer you the same as any other top agent or producer. We're all going to do beautiful marketing. We're going to do drone videos. I'm going to do a virtual tour. I'm going to do, your house is vacant. We might use concierge to fill it with staged furniture, or I might do virtual staging.
Sure.
We might do decluttering in real life. But what you're going to get with me is when the going gets tough, when it comes time to negotiate, when the appraisal doesn't come in at the price you had hoped, when the inspection is littered with all kinds of prices, when the fourth round of negotiations is here, I'm the guy that rolls up his sleeves, that digs deep and gets it done. And I think for me that's a big differentiator.
Hey, you just sold me.
Yeah, I'm sold.
Yeah, Danielle's sold too. We're going to wrap up. We have a couple more questions, a couple more minutes. Danielle's got a question for you as well. Go ahead.
I haven't thought of it yet.
When you think about it, when you make a hire, because you were good friends with one of your junior agents that we all like, but when you look for a new hire on your team, what do you look for in that new hire? What are the qualities? What kind of questions do you ask?
So I came to Compass with a team of almost 6 people or so.
Yeah.
And I didn't really set out to build a team. It just kind of happened. But when I jumped to Compass, a bunch of people kind of wanted to come with me, and so we came over as a team. What I learned in that process is that bigger is not better, and it's very hard. It's very hard to manage, especially junior agents, especially young, up and coming new agents that have a million questions, that make a million mistakes, and you're the guy at the top having to answer to all those mistakes.
Yeah.
So for me, I actually got to a point where it was slowing me down, and my business was suffering while I was trying to build something that the idea is that you help agents underneath you grow, and then you take a little bit off the top, and everybody grows together. But what ended up happening was I started drowning trying to help others, and like they tell you on the plane, put your own mask on first. So I actually decided I was going to scale back, focus on me, infrastructure, set my roots, and build slowly from there. Now what I actually focus on when I'm looking for new agents, and I'm not looking for new agents. In fact, the last person I hired to my team, I told her I'm not looking to hire anybody. And she gave me 10 reasons why I should hire her. Sure. And I was like, all right, sold. You're welcome aboard, Laura. Okay. And she's fantastic. Laura Goldberg, who's on my team, and she's, she had a career in as a concierge. She had a whole concierge business of her own. She understands what it takes to service a client. But what I look for now are people that are client focused, that have business experience. It may not be real estate, but they know how to make sure that the client comes first. The client is always right, to make sure that you do what it takes to get the deal done and to keep your client happy, because it's one client at a time. This one's happy, the next one's happy, and so on and so forth. Sure. And I look for independent free thinkers. People, you have to be able to think on your own. So you can get a feel real quick in 2-3 weeks. It's like
while you're there to guide them, you cannot have all the answers.
You just have to be able to think outside the box here. And I'm looking for people where I say, hey, here's 5 things that you should do this month to try to start growing your business. And then I expect you to come back and say, hey, look, we did all these things. Here's the results. I don't want to be coming to that person in a month and saying, did you do X, Y, Z? Oh no, why not? And I can't chase you. It's not my job it's not my job to call you and say, hey, get out of bed, go make some money. You need to be hungry, and I have a squeaky wheel gets the oil philosophy when I'm looking for somebody to join my team. You better be hungry and ready to work and capable of doing so.
I really like your story of your come up. Going on websites, posting other brokers' rental listings on Craigslist. It's really unglamorous work.
It's not.
And
it's really
I think the challenge of finding junior agents is exactly that. Are you willing to do the unglamorous work first with the knowledge and the time commitment that is required to do what needs to get done to become successful? So I really admire what you did there. And I think the challenge is, can you find somebody like yourself that actually is willing to do that and put in that time frame of work?
It's hard. Yeah. And then as you start to get a little bit, your business starts to grow, and you start to kind of find your stride. And for me, Compass was a huge shift in my career, because I went from a very small local brokerage, where I was one of the only guys that spoke English on a regular basis, to a brokerage that had a national network, and at the time less than 1,000 agents. But I got in early, and I went to the Hamptons, and then I went to San Francisco, and I went to Aspen, and vice versa. I've been to DC and Boston and Nashville, all of them. And it's a survive for 5 business in real estate. But even building these relationships is 5 years. People that I met in Boston, which was how many years ago? 2, 3. you know, are now sending me. I just got a $7 million referral from somebody, you know, through someone else. It wasn't even the agent I met, but that agent told them, "Hey, you have some Miami, call Levi." You know, and that's and you know, so it takes time, and you have to be thinking about the long game. It really does. You have to be
Always.
a long game and have fun. I mean, you know, we go to these retreats. I tell my wife, like, don't kid yourself. I'm gonna have a great time. Like, it's not like it's boring convention stuff and some like, you know, this is not, you know, we're not. You know, this is not like a builders association meeting. You know, we go out, we have a good time. It's cocktails and drinks and food and dancing. But that for me is networking. That's building relationships, making friends. People like to work with people that they like.
That's right. That's right. To wrap up, Danielle's got one last question.
All right. Speaking of the long game, what's the future like for the Myer Group? What are the goals over the next couple of years?
So Myer Group is doing really well, but we're not $100 million well just yet. You know, that's, I think that is a benchmark that most brokers aspire to, is that $100 million club.
$10 million a month.
So we're not there yet. But this year we have our eyes set on a $50 million number, which is somewhat ambitious compared to our previous years. But again, you know, it's an exponential growth, and I think this is a year where all the things are happening. So we're set on a $50 million number. But truth be told, I'm not so much of a number focused person. I think we're really looking in this next year to really set even deeper roots and sort of expand our network for the long game, because 100 million is cute, but you know, that's not gonna. You know, it may or may not happen this year.
Right.
I'd like it to, but 100 million is cute, and the goal is really to do a whole lot more than that. And so this is the year, I think, where we're gonna set even deeper roots, focusing not on this year, tomorrow, but on the 5-10 year game plan to really build. Slow growth. We're not actively looking to add members to the team, but if we find the right person, we're gonna do anything we can to snatch them up. And I think there's a component in my personal life where it will probably shift into real estate investment development side of things.
There you
go. And then ultimately the passion that burns within me, but that is not necessarily real estate, although I love it with everything that I got. There's a dreamer in me that wants to be a filmmaker at some point in my life.
Whoa! I love that.
So yeah, dropping secrets here.
Yeah.
But
I love that.
But yeah, I you know, hold me to it. There's going to be a day, you know, I don't know if it's now or before or after real estate investment development and the $100 million plus club, but at some point, film production, maybe even music production. Although I know very little about music, but the idea of production is tantalizing to me, and I can't shake it.
Nice, I like it.
Nice.
You guys heard it
You
here
gotta
first. To close up, some rapid fire questions. Best place to eat in South Beach?
Best place to eat in South Beach?
Rapid
I
fires.
can't say best, but I'd say most recently we ate at a place called Choto Mate, and it was
What is it?
The ambience it's like I think it's Peruvian Japanese fusion,
Wow.
and it's again a phenomenal environment. It has a retractable rooftop. It has trees, like pink trees that are lit up with different colors. It's the food presentation
How do you
is
spell that?
amazing. It's called Choto Mate. That's
Choto Mate.
CHOTTO or TO, and then Mate MATE or MATTE.
Cool.
It's just off of Lincoln Road, almost a little hard to find. It is phenomenal. It's actually where Robert Refkin hosted his private dinner with the top producers of Compass.
Best place, best place to party in South Beach.
Why do we keep saying South Beach?
All right,
Who
Miami.
knows the South Beach?
Best place to party in Miami.
Well, I mean, the truth is it's 11. Not everyone wants to hear it, but yeah, all roads lead to 11. You know,
All
you
roads
can go to
lead to
Live,
11.
you can go to Story, you can go to the basement, you can go whatever.
That really
but
was
if
the
you're-
theme of the
but,
retreat.
But if you end up on the late night, all roads end up leading to the 24-hour district.
goes
There's
to 11.
Space, there's 11, and you know, so there are other such places.
Best rooftop in Miami.
Best rooftop in Miami. Personal favorite is Sugar at the rooftop of the East Hotel. There is a new rooftop bar restaurant. It's actually a Greek restaurant and bar. It's the only rooftop in Wynwood. It's called Astra. That's ASTRA. And
Okay.
it's really nice, and it's literally the only rooftop in Wynwood. It's for the only place in Wynwood where you're actually you can see clear across the rooftops to a downtown Miami skyline.
Nice. We were at Wynwood
We did a brief stint in Wynwood.
Well, we had the
night.
Mono
one night.
Wynwood takeover,
Yeah.
and then people dispersed into various different places.
Final question. You have your lovely family, 2 kids. What's your favorite activity in Miami? What do you do with your family when you have time?
My wife Lauren. Big shout out to Lauren who holds down the
Hey,
fort.
Lauren.
Hey Lauren. While I'm holding down while I'm out here, schmoozing and shaking hands and going around, she is holding down the fort, doing the hard work. And my son Benjamin and my daughter Charlotte. Who are right now 5.5-ish, and Charlotte. They listen. 5.5 is very important. If I tell Benjamin he's 5, he's Daddy, it's 5.5.
Yeah, of
course.
So Charlotte, who's turning 4 in March. My goodness. But anyways, my favorite pastime with them is obviously taking them out on the boat. The kids love the boat. Benjamin likes to climb up on the bow. He holds onto the windshield. He's splashing on the wake, and he's calling out for wake. And then it's Charlotte's crying in the back that I'm going too fast. It's a great time. Everybody's having fun. But then she likes to find an island that we could dock up at, and then so it takes Miami to a new level when you get out on the water.
Oh, I love it. All right, guys, listen, I'm just to wrap up. Levi, thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming on.
Wait. I know we're running up on short time.
This is part one.
But the script said I get to ask Takk a question.
Whatever you want.
All right, we're opening up the next podcast where I get to ask Takk my
Let's
question.
do it.
Stay tuned, ladies and
Stay
gentlemen.
tuned. Part one of Levi, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for
to
having
the Real
me.
Talk Podcast. Don't lean into the mic.
The big brown dog jumped over the lazy fox.
You have a large voice. Don't put your face into the mic. Go ahead, right there.
Can we get some more tequila in
What are
here?
you doing in New York?
I was in Naples for the holidays, and it was a rainy day. There wasn't much to do, so we went to an outlet mall just north of Naples, and I got a really great deal on a coat. And I thought it would be about time that I take it out for a
Use
spin.
the coat.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I brought you guys a little cold weather. It was a 27.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. And that's it. I'm really.
So you're here to test the coat out.
I'm just like I got a new coat. I want to drive it.
Okay, makes sense.
No, I actually came to meet with. I came to meet with a developer, sort of a developer, property owner, investor that a Compass agent referred me to, just to continue the conversation, and I figured I would piggyback that into just re-engaging and networking with agents at Compass.
You've got to.
Makes
You gotta
sense.
Megan was just here doing just that.
I can't let Megan beat me to the punch.
Shaking hands, shaking asses. She was like sending out mail blasts. Shaking asses.
Like, can we put that in the
That's his
podcast?
phrase.
I'm not putting that in the podcast. Oh, so you have the loudest voice so far out of anyone that we've interviewed.
Oh no,
which is
I'm good.
great.
And then when I laugh, forget it. Don't
Which
get
is
me. Then
great,
it's like I'm the bear. It's so hot in here that I'm gonna.
You should take it off.
No, because I feel like I'm in New York. I have to look
your New
the
York
part.
look, yeah.
Okay, so what you want to do is.
Can we get that any lower? Maybe like right in my chin.
Yeah.
Do you want to put that?
You want to bring one ream of paper back? Okay. One ream.
All right. Here's what I'm gonna do.
All right,
Really
here.
quick.
Say this.
I have the distance of the length of this office, and I'll be right back.
Okay, great. And then,